Denver, Kansas City. The Chiefs right now are 3-point favorites. So basically neutral field. It'd be a pick 'em game. Tell me your logic there. Tell me if anybody from a professional perspective is playing either the total, which is 41.5, or the side.
Uh, they're betting the side. They're betting the Chiefs, and I could see this line going up to 3.5. I think the general consensus among everyone was that Peyton Manning did not look very good. I think everyone's aware of the new offensive style, and the focus more on the run, and hopefully not get Peyton kind of banged up. But I mean, word is he's already injured his back in week 1, and he kind of already went in for some treatment. How serious it is, we still don't know. He's not listed as questionable or anything, but he was kind of banged up in that game. So, and the Chiefs, on the other hand, looked really good in their win. So now the Chiefs at home, at 3-point favorite is kind of a solid number, we think. But I do think that the money's going to come in more on the Chiefs. Talk about a little bit of an overreaction. Even though the Broncos won and covered in their first week, the fact that they didn't look good, I think the bettors kind of felt lucky with that win, and they're not so anxious to kind of go against the Chiefs in this one.
All right, Carolina and Houston. Houston at Carolina. Carolina's a 3.5-point favorite. How do you make that number, and where are people coming in?
They're coming in on the Panthers right now. There's not going to be a lot of action on this game, and people are kind of staying away from this Houston team. They just don't know what they're going to get with this team. A little bit, we were kind of debating 2.5 and 3 on this one, and we just shaded it to the higher number and said let the big bets take us off of 3 rather than get us onto 3. So we just opened the 3.
And it's moved off it a little bit, right? Is it 3.5? Or are you still
3
at 3?
minus 20 now. So we got a few big bets on the Panthers, and I could probably see it going up a little bit more.
I could see that too. All right, San Francisco and Pittsburgh. This is a game where I do think that people will be more inclined to bet the Niners because they played so well against the Vikings. They're sort of the perfect storm of a team nobody expected anything of versus a team everyone expected good things from, and you got the complete opposite. So tell me what you're thinking here.
Yeah, when we hung the Niners-Vikings game, we actually, if you remember, we hung the Niners a 4-point favorite. And, looking back on it now as a Monday morning quarterback, it turned out to be a pretty good line. But remember, that line had moved from the 49ers -4 to the Vikings -3, a huge move. And it's based on all the injuries and all the personnel problems that the 49ers have went through during the whole season, so the off season rather. So we still don't want to over adjust based on just the 49ers and the Viking game. So I think it's a little bit of a high number, but we know that the public is still going to be betting the Steelers. I think this number probably should be in the 4 range. 4.5 is probably the truer number. But again, I think the public's going to come in on the Steelers. Even with that 49er win, I think they're going to be betting the Steelers here.
Well, you know what Mark Twain said.
What did he say?
Bet against the public.
Tampa Bay.
Bet against the public.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay at New Orleans. New Orleans is a 10-point favorite. This one is all about last weekend. And it's not even about New Orleans looking bad against Arizona. It's about Tampa Bay looking as bad as it can get.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because actually, a few weeks ago, if you asked me to make a number on this game before seeing any of Week 1's results, I would have said the Saints would be a 7-point favorite. So the fact that we opened them so high is just us saying that we know that nobody, the public, is not going to bet on the Buccaneers here. And now the wise guys, on the other hand, I could see them coming in and seeing a little value here on +10. But as far as the public, it's going to be all Saints.
Let's make a prediction right now that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers become the equivalent of the Jacksonville Jaguars every year, in that they are always double-digit dogs, and we can just say right now the wise guys will always be in Tampa Bay because they will, without question, be on double-digit dogs if they're on a game
with double-digit dogs. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you see double digits, well said.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate you not feeling like you had to come in over the top. Minnesota, Detroit. Detroit and Minnesota. Minnesota's a 3-point favorite. That's an interesting game.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of the games that we might see a little bit of an overreaction, but I will say that we did take a couple of pretty sizable bets on the Lions here at +3, and we're actually moved the money on the Lions at +3, -20 now. So in addition to the public, we're getting sharp money on the Lions as well.
I'm not surprised by that. It felt like the Lions, for a half, played really well, and then sort of got overtaken by the Chargers on the road. The Chargers have a decent amount of talent. The Lions are still figuring some things out. Matthew Stafford isn't a guy you can always trust. But it did seem to me that they seem to be able to put things together.
I agree, yeah.
People would sort of look at that game, and if you looked at the box score, there's probably more of an indication that game was closer than the final score appeared to be.
Yeah, I watched that game, most of that game as well, and I did feel like the Lions were really, the score really didn't indicate how well the Lions played. Let's just say it that way. And I would, again, had I made this line probably a couple of weeks ago, I probably would have made. Well, actually, this is a tough one because I think I did see some early lines on this one where the Vikings were -1. So the fact that we opened them -3 indicates that this line is a little inflated. So there probably is a lot of value on the Lions here. This might actually, I don't want to get ahead. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but this might be a game that we might be talking about at the end of this show.
Oh, boy. If we're going to do that, then we should probably foreshadow that somebody is ahead in this particular contest 1-0. Arizona at Chicago. Chicago's a 2-point home dog. If you bet the Bears, you get what you deserve.
We have gotten more action on this game probably than any game on the board from sharp guys. They are all over the Bears in this one, and it's kind of surprising.
Yeah,
I mean, the public obviously is going to be on the Cardinals on this one at probably a ratio of 5-6 to 1. We opened the Cardinals a 3-point favorite. We're down to 1.5 now, and still some big money coming in on Chicago. Hard to explain. I mean, they saw something, like I said, the first half against the Packers. I was a little surprised at how well Chicago played, but boy, you just can't depend on that for 4 quarters.
Well, this is going to be one of those interesting games. Sports Insights always has that stat where, when 80% of the money is on the short road favorite, you can guarantee that the results will favor the home team that's getting the points from a betting perspective. The preponderance of wins come on that side of it. So this could be an interesting game. I would decidedly walk away from that game. It will not be part of our contest later in the day from my perspective. New England at Buffalo. This is what everyone's talking about. Buffalo is a 1-point dog.
Yeah, and so far all the money's been on New England, both sharp and public. Haven't really gotten any sharp plays on the Bills. Hardly have any money on the Bills, which is a little surprising considering how well the Bills did play and largely because of their defense, and now especially in the secondary. And if they can kind of shut down Andrew Luck and company, you would figure they would have some success against the Patriots here. Their home field advantage was huge from everything that I've read about just that crowd being so raucous and just getting so excited and having some kind of hope this year for the Bills. So that home field is going to be big in this one, and Buffalo typically gives New England a lot of problems up in when they do play at home up there. So I'm a little surprised to see the money coming in on the Patriots, but on the other side, you're relying on a quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, who, even though he looked decent in his opener, I think Bill Belichick might have some surprises for him.
San Diego at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a 3.5-point favorite. I'm surprised that you're giving the hook there?
The Bengals don't get a whole lot of credit. Of course, the Chargers are typically underrated as well. I think this is a good number, and just judging by some of the early action, it looks like it's two-way action. The same ticket count on both sides, same amount of money on both sides. I do think the sharp guys will probably see what you're seeing in terms of taking a plus 3.5. They typically do rather than lay in that 3.5. But I do think this is a decent number.
Tennessee and Cleveland. Oh boy. Mariota and Johnny Manziel. Cleveland is a 1-point dog at home. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, I actually...
Talk to me about it.
Yeah, I'd hate to go into this game needing the Browns for a ton, but I can certainly see it shaping up that way. I've already moved the Titans to a 1-point favorite, so we flip-flopped favorites. I'm going to be real quick to move this, even on very, very little money, because I just don't want to see this number run up to 3 and just be caught just needing the Browns as one of our biggest games. I'd prefer this not to be one of our biggest games. I watched that Browns team last week, and again, the first half gave me a little bit of hope until Manziel came in, and even though he looked good on his first play, it was all downhill from there. And then on the other side, like you said, Mariota. Boy, he came in looking like a seasoned veteran. You would never know that he was a rookie. And the Titans, we talked about it last week, actually, that a lot of really sharp bettors were really high on this Titans team, even picking them to go to the playoffs. So I just don't want to get caught again with this being a big decision.
All right, here's our overreaction matchup of the week, because you got the Falcons beating the Eagles on Monday night, the Giants imploding on Sunday night. You got the Giants as a 2.5-point favorite at home. So basically you're favoring the Falcons a little bit on a neutral field. Where's the money coming right now?
It's pretty even, actually. Not a whole lot of money on this game. Hasn't been up for a whole... hasn't been up for very much time, being that the Falcons just played on Monday night. So we just hung this line yesterday, so not a lot of time to bet into it yet. But it looks like the ticket count is pretty even, and haven't gotten any real sharp plays either side on this game. But like you said, the Falcons slight favorite on a neutral field. I think I was more impressed with the Falcons on Monday night than I was obviously in the Giants' first game. But I think I think this number could go down. I don't see it going up to 3. I see it going down closer to a pick'em.
I agree. St. Louis at Washington. St. Louis is a 3.5-point favorite.
It's all Rams. I mean, the public is all over the Rams. However, some of the sharp guys took some big bets at the plus 3.5 with Washington in this one. So this is another game, if you want to bring Mark Twain into it again, where the public's on the Rams and the sharp guys are going to be on the Redskins. I don't want to say overinflated, but we did inflate the Rams a little bit based on the first week, even though it wasn't a real big surprise that the Rams beat the Seahawks, because I believe that was your pick in Scooch Roulette. So obviously it couldn't have been a big surprise. I
appreciate you giving me credit for that. Not for me. I'm surprised.
But here we're going to need the Redskins for a ton. This might be one of our biggest parlay games of the weekend.
This game might make an appearance later in the show. Miami at Jacksonville, and I mean Washington, Seattle might. Miami at Jacksonville. Finn's almost a touchdown favorite. This has 80-20 rule written all over it.
There's another one, just like the Rams game. We know we're going to be high on the Dolphins. The public, it was one of our biggest games last week for the public, so there's no reason to think that it's not going to be one of our biggest games this week. The ticket count is already 10 or 12 to 1 ratio, so it's only going to get bigger. So if you're going to get a little value, it's going to be on the Jaguars, but you have to have a lot of intestinal fortitude to put your money on that team. But those sharp guys sure have already. So I mean, we've gotten some big bets on the Jaguars at plus 6.5. So this is one of those 80-20 games.
I'm not surprised by that at all. Baltimore at Oakland. Baltimore's a 6.5-point favorite. Why was this game off the board for a little while?
Derek Carr is.
Yes, I thought.
Yeah, so a big drop down to McGloin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this might be an ugly one, but
I don't think there's anything to say about that game.
No, I mean, we know where the money's going to come in. We know that there's not going to be a whole lot of people betting Oakland, especially if they're not knowing about the quarterback position. So we're just going to go into this game needing Oakland no matter what the spread is.
Dallas at Philly, rivalry game right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I see the public coming in on the Cowboys here. I think the general perception is going to be that these teams are kind of fairly evenly matched, and if you're going to give one side 5.5 points, that the play is to take the points. Everyone was high on Philly. I was high on Philly myself, and the second half they kind of showed the kind of offense that everybody expected, but a couple of poor decisions late in the game, and the first half it looked like they got out of the gates like really slowly. So I think the money's going to come in on the Cowboys, even though we did make the line fairly high. 5.5. I see the line coming down more than I see it going up.
The other marquee, Seattle at Green Bay. Green Bay is now a 3.5-point favorite.
It's going to be all Green Bay. And again, this is going to be the Sunday night game, which means it's going to just get magnified. We're going to end up needing the Seahawks big in this one. The ticket count is already 2-1, 3-1 on the Packers. Some big bets on actually both sides, some pretty big bets on both sides. But I do see this number going up closer to game time. I could see this number going up to 4. Really don't see it coming down to 3. Although the wise guys haven't really tipped their hand in this one.
At this point in the season, what would you say, if I can boldly refer to my creation, the Millman rankings, where we ascribed a point spread value to the most valuable players in the NFL. What would you say is the point spread value of Cam Chancellor at this point?
Well, he's certainly worth at least a point. It's hard to assign defensive players a lot of points. The skilled positions, I think, are, we're talking about the Aaron Rodgers of the world and comparing them to a defensive player. But certainly with all the other problems that they've had on defense in the offseason with just player personnel, they're not the same defensive unit that won a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I think he's a big part of it. So probably a point and a half.
I think that's pretty good. A point and a half for a
defensive
safety
player. Yeah,
New York. Yeah, that's great. Jets at Indy. Indy's a 7-point favorite.
Yeah. It's a pretty high line, 7-point favorite. Colts obviously didn't look great, but now they're at home, and we know that the public is going to be all over the Colts. The public was on the Jets against the Browns in Week 1, but I don't necessarily think that everyone's jumping on that Jets bandwagon just yet. So in a game like this, I think the public is going to be all over the Colts. I think 7 is a pretty solid number. I don't see it moving too much off of that number, although I do think the sharp guys will probably rather take 7 than lay 7.
All right. Frank Dale.
Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Place your bets. Place your bets. The wheel turns.
Are you ready? It's time to play Scooch Roulette.
No more bets, please. No more bets.
Can we remind people what who you had last week in Scooch Roulette? Bob Scucci.
I had the Eagles.
You had the Eagles?
Yeah.
Interesting. How did that game turn out?
It didn't turn out so well.
It didn't turn out well, did it? The Eagles, I believe, had a pretty embarrassing loss in prime time on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
It escapes me. I think we talked about it earlier, but I've already forgotten that part of the conversation. Who did I have in Scooch Roulette?
I believe you had the Rams over the Seahawks.
Wow, that worked out pretty well for me. There was a time where Nick Foles got sacked and they returned a fumble for a touchdown where I thought for sure things were going to go against me, but they rallied.
I think they were down, 9 or 10? I mean, it was getting pretty ugly there for a minute.
They came back.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to start the season. I don't like to have bad beats to start the year.
No, congratulations. Good pick.
So since I'm coming off a winning season last year, and I believe, and I'm coming off a winning weekend, I'm going to do the gracious thing and give you the first choice in Scooch Roulette.
How nice. Well, we talked a little bit about the Lions against the Vikings, and I still like this Lions team, and getting 3 points. I think that's where the value is. I'll go with the Lions +3.
All right, I like the Redskins +3.5.
Wow, you're such a sharp guy.
Home, I like the Redskins +3.5. It was going to be them or Jacksonville, but I just feel like, you know what? It just feels like the right side to me.
Yeah. So you went on the Rams 1 week and now against the Rams the next week.
I don't play favorites. I don't get sentimental. I play the numbers and I play the percentages.
I gotcha.
I'm this close to being a professional.
You are very close.
Scooch, thanks for coming on your podcast, as always.
Hey, thank you.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.
We'd like to thank you for listening to today's show.